programmer for 2 games, which does not actually qualify me to talk about this stuff. What does qualify me is that I read a tremendous amount of cyberpunk literature as a kid and developed an interest in stuff like this. So here we go. So basically, since the dawn of time, mankind has struggled with certain tasks, trying to. I wouldn't say there's an intelligence deficiency, but you know, we're not very good at doing certain types of things. There's all kinds of. Even right now, I'm struggling to come up with words to explain what I'm showing. Even the great Richard Feynman said that you know, humans are basically just monkeys with sticks, and we're just poking at stuff, trying to figure out how it works. And occasionally, you know, we figure it out, and then we feel pretty good about ourselves. But in general, we don't have much to work with as humans. Okay, so for options for improving your mind, there's the old-fashioned way, which we have a picture of a girl with what I believe is a prototype iPad. From, not 100% sure what that is or where I got it from. If you're feeling particularly lazy, there's a class of drugs called nootropics. Not a big fan of them, but people swear up and down by them. They got a bunch of side effects, and apparently you learn to not be that smart. Even worse, your baseline gets even worse than it was before if you start doing them, so F that. There's Khan Academy, which is, do you guys know Khan Academy?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good, yeah. I spend about 85 to 95% of my free time on this, just like learning crap. It's absolutely brilliant. There's brain training games like Sudoku and stuff like that, which old people swear by, but I have seen no evidence whatsoever that they work or do anything. No disrespect to the Nintendo DS. And then there's Adderall, which the kids seem to love these days. Okay, so MIT OpenCourseWare is another Khan Academy-like thing. It's got about 220,000 users and 47 million views. That's pretty impressive. A lot of people are spending their time doing this. There's Khan Academy, which about doubles the users, and the views are just off the charts, partially because of Kaylin and I, mainly because of Kaylin and I. And then there's Adderall, which I've seen estimated at about 25% of college students are using this thing pretty seriously before they take tests, write essays, stuff like that. That's roughly, given the number of college students in the US, about 4.3 million people. Nasty side effects, it's addictive, it'll fuck up your heart, not the kind of stuff you want to be messing with. Unless you want to write the best essay of your life. Okay, so the question is, no, I'm all about the cheesy transitions, I know this stuff. So, I mean, the question is, you have two options. I mean, you can go down the drug abuse route, and you can just amp yourself all up on Adderall and chop that shit up and snort it, or whatever the kids do. What do I know? Or, why abuse drugs when you can abuse electricity? And that is going to be the primary focus of the talk, as I finally get to the point, 75% of the way through the slides. Okay, so I want to talk about TDCS, which is transcranial direct current stimulation. What? Yeah, it's a I didn't make this name up, that's a thing. So it's a form of neurostimulation similar to deep brain stimulation or it's the magnetic one that I can never figure out how to build a machine. Okay, well, we'll get to that later. I think it's in the slides somewhere. It was developed to help brain injury patients, people with strokes, people with learning disabilities, things like that. It can increase your math ability, memory, coordination, problem solving, learning, all that good stuff with zero effort. DARPA is currently using this thing to train snipers. According to their own data, the snipers learn tasks roughly 2 to 3 times faster than they do without this. The results, if you actually look up some of the current literature, is just absolutely insane what the people are doing with this. And currently has no risks or serious side effects except for occasional burns. Now, if you do read some of the papers being written in this, it's funny because people do report burns as a side effect, but no one ever tells them to stop the treatment. You know, afterwards, after the 20-minute session is done, the doctor says, oh, you know, did you experience any uncomfort? And they're like, yeah, you know, I felt a little burning on my skin. The doctor said, like, you know, why didn't you tell me to stop? And they're like, I don't know, why would I?
So what you're saying is it makes you stupid.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a picture. It's a brain scan. I'm not going to say too much about it, but we can go into details later on if you guys want to ask some questions after the presentation. So if you want to go down this route, because you're feeling particularly lazy and watching a 5-minute video is too difficult for you, you have a couple commercially available options. There's this puppy right here from Transcranial Technologies, $380 USD, electrodes included, and they will sell to you if you are not a medical institution. That's actually really, really big when you're looking at these devices because a lot of places won't sell to you unless you're a doctor or pretending to be one. So I don't know if that counts as PhD. You might need to be a medical doctor. Okay, yeah, this puppy right here, it is the budget unit, $185, does everything the other one does without presets. You have to put it together yourself, which is not a big problem. 10-minute assembly, no big deal, comes with electrodes, and you can be zapping yourself in no time. And then there's this puppy right here, $280, Advantage Medical. It's got a couple really cool presets. There's hundreds of these on the web. This is not the only 3 available. I just decided to list some of them. Or you could do it yourself. I'm not a fan of buying other people's hardware when you can just make it yourself. So, you know, go into a little detail about that. Okay. At this point, I'll go over what it takes to build your own TDCS device using easily obtained parts you can get over the internet or any number of dubious shops on Teramachi. I'm showing you this for your information purposes only. Under no circumstances should you try to ever attempt to build the device or use it on another living organism, except for Kalen, who graciously offered to let me test the device on him. Thank you, Kalen. You are a true friend. Seriously, if you end up electrocuting yourself or with any kinds of burns, abrasions, organ damage, brain damage, weird muscle twitching, seizure, itchy rashes, nervous twitches, urges to listen to Celine Dion or Justin Bieber, changes in personality or frequency of trips to the bathroom, or any other problems, not my fucking fault. You took it upon yourself. Screw you. You deserve what you get. Something Magneto like superpowers. Okay, which may not actually happen. So here's what it looks like, fully assembled. It is ghetto, to say the least. But the important thing is it's not what it looks like, it's what it does. This can be assembled for about $50 in parts in an afternoon of your time and labor. This is what the inside of the box looks like. It's filled with glue for various reasons. There's certain wires that you would not necessarily want touching each other while this thing is attached to your head. And finally, this is the schematic. And I mean just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You could count the number of parts on 2 hands worth of fingers. It's not a hard device to build. I wouldn't suggest trying it if you don't know about electronics. There's a couple fundamental flaws with this one that may or may not be a problem. There's other schematics available if you want to try it. This is simple and relatively safe as far as the other ones go. I just wanted to make a quick note here. Also, I hope you guys will appreciate the irony of me pushing memory improvement techniques and then having to read this from a piece of paper. So just a little bit of talk about electrode placement. You have cathode and anode. And for those of you who are used to doing electronics, this is just the ass-backwards way that you would think it is. It's a little bit counterintuitive, but the way that anode and cathode are used in TDC, direct current stimulation literature is basically, cathode is the negative terminal where electricity, to simplify it, exits. It basically causes up a build of negative charge. So if you have charge building up and you have a very, very small cathode electrode, charge can pass less freely through it, so charge tends to build up more, which is good. You can able, through the size of the cathode electrodes, you're able to actually shape the area of the brain that this thing can affect. It's basically the one that you want to place in the supraorbital area. So left eye, right about here, is a good placement for that. So The anode, which is the other one down there, a little plus on it, is basically where electricity enters your brain, or enters into your head. The effect of this one is not as clear-cut as the cathode. It's not as simple as, you place it here, make it this size or this size, depending on what you want to get. Yeah, it's, the neurons under cathode, and I'm going to have to make sure that I get this right. The urine under cathode in trials where you're basically trying to improve coordination tend to be more activated and more excited, while the ones in the anode tend to be more suppressed. That is actually, depending on the task you're doing, that can flip. For certain types of training that you do with these things, the cathode, the area where the cathode is where the neurons are the most suppressed, and then anode is where they're a little bit more excited. All of this depends highly on brain morphology, layering, particular area, cellular composition, all this good stuff that you want to take into account when you're deciding what part of the brain to stimulate, I guess for lack of a better term. 50% of the current that goes through this thing is lost to the surrounding tissue. Very little goes into the actual brain itself, which is unfortunate, but other methods are better, but they require sticking probes into your head. And I mean all the way in, which is why they call it deep brain stimulation. Which is, to be honest with you, if Caitlin would agree to that, man, I would be all over that. You have a couple parameters to play with. There's polarity, there's intensity, there's current, duration of stimulation, stuff like that. Everything shapes the effect in a different way. I could explain it to you. It's kind of weird, but basically if you look at EEG, areas of the brain, it all maps in the exact same way. So a couple tips on electrode placement that I noticed are good tips. So they should be about 8 centimeters apart for 5 by 7 centimeter electrodes to keep current flowing. Anything closer and you're going to get less current flowing than you normally would. Measure resistance. It should be under 5K ohms or your electrode placement will be wrong or you will die. Basically any motor cortex activation or unrelated cognitive effort will completely modify the effect. So if you start thinking about something that's not the area that you're specifically training, or if you just start kind of like wiggling your fingers, it will actually modify the effect in new and interesting ways, which may or may not be good. And finally, and my God, if you're ever stupid enough to make one of these, I cannot stress this enough. Use a battery. Do not use wall electricity. If you find yourself thinking like, batteries run out, let me just plug it into the wall, you, my friend, will have a good time. So just a quick breakdown of some of the parts that are involved. This thing right here, it's an IC, it's 79 cents. This thing's 99 cents. Potentiometer for $10. I mean, these are all things you can get off of the Jaymin website. You can get them in Terabachi for even cheaper, probably. Not that anything in Japan is ever cheap. From 4MD Medical, you can actually get sponge electrodes, really nice ones, for like $48. I highly suggest them. Some miscellaneous parts, resistors, wire, other crap you might need. The neoprene cap is what you actually use for the hood when you're attaching it to your head, which is kind of cool. It's $23. It belongs in a wetsuit, and it will end up on your head. You can make your own homemade saline too. There's a really, really good way to do this that we can talk about after the presentation. And anything else? Yeah, okay, so like I said, there were a few flaws in the design that I'm currently working with up here. It treats anodes, both anodes and singular anode in terms of regulation and monitoring. So if you configure for standard current density, it can come out to 0.001 milliamps of current through one, not through the other, which is at best dangerous and at worst deadly. It does not currently have a circuit to measure resistance and adjust the current based on that. It's another safety measure that if you really, really care about living, you should probably have in there. Be careful with the placement of electrodes. It really, really matters, the area that you place them on for what type of training you're trying to do specifically. And also, the box that you saw was a little bit small, and if you cram too much stuff into there, wires start touching each other, and yeah, you're in for a good time. Here's a couple of non-technical resources if you guys want to take pictures of it. I didn't post any of the hardcore literature. These are just good introductions for people who are just starting to get started with this stuff. Pause. 3, 2, 1. Okay, cool. That's it. Happy electrocution.
So have you tried it? Kaylin has.
I don't know. I may or may have not tried it. However, Kaylin is the dummy subject for this particular model. Yeah. If you look at the top of his head, there's like little bits of marker on there where I've been measuring things. There's another way to do very precise electrode placement. Basically, you have to measure things from the base of the skull to the area right about here, and then you mark the direct center with the dot. Then you have to measure the other way, and then you can kind of get your bearings with that. But you know, if the majority of you are not doing this, this does not apply. So it's cool.
What kind of training are you actually doing? Like, say you want to study something, are you actually studying that thing while you've got the thing on your head, or are you generally improving your mind and then studying it sort of separately?
So I've seen two types of studies. I've seen official ones that are working with, like, you know, cripples who can't walk and stuff, and, you know, people who had strokes and things like that. And those tend to actually have you think about moving. So if you're having a hard time moving the left side of your body, or you're trying to improve coordination, these are also used for depression. But those tend to map more directly. As far as when you're learning stuff, unfortunately, the only quote-unquote literature that I could find on that is, you know, college kids who's like, I'm going to build one of these, and I'm going to study while this crap's hooked up to my head. So I don't have any hard data on that, but I basically spend my lunches at work reading papers, so I can find more about that.
Any idea about the mechanism to relieve the, the brain injuries like that? Do you know how it works?
Right. Actually, at this point, nobody really knows how it works. It's a big area of research right now, and they're finding out more. But right now, the actual, as of the latest paper I read on this was in 2009. The actual mechanism in which it works is just completely unknown. We just know it's the same thing with the magnetic one that I'm very nervous and can't remember, where we don't really know how it works, but we know if you apply a magnetic field to certain parts of the brain of a certain shape and intensity, you start hearing voices, or you can you start like tasting colors and things like that. So, yes, I'm in no way a professional. I just do this as a hobby when I'm not making video games.
I mean, I've heard about this kind of techniques before. The antidepressants were made, like later part of the 20th century.
Yeah.
They used like electrostimulation on the brain on severely depressed patients,
yes.
And that apparently worked pretty well. I mean, apart from the
they used to use it in a very untargeted way in the early 20th century, and basically all research into it had been dropped, and nobody was using it except for the Russians. And the Russians kept it going, and then in 1984, there was another boom with it among researchers in the U.S., and it's been going with that. It's got some pretty incredible results, but it's it's a little bit up in the air as to there are no known long-term side effects, and there's no known bad anything about it. But that doesn't mean that we're not all going to die. So. It's actually, from the number of studies that are done on it, it seems really safe. I wouldn't say that making that thing I put up there is safe. But,
but like the devices, like you say, were commercially available. Like, what kind of status do these devices have? Are they considered like medical device or?
Some of them are. Yeah. Some of them are therapeutic medical devices only, and other ones are available to general consumers. The ones that are more high-end medical. There are ones that have built-in EEGs, so you can actually monitor what's going on while the treatment is going on. There's one with very specific presets and all kinds of crazy things. But this is not. I'm sure that if a large enough number of people got into doing this, that they would become more heavily regulated. It's a medical device intended for treatment of serious illness, and the only illness that we're treating is the fact that we have a hard time calculating double integrals for things.
Like Adderall is supposed to, I don't know if it's effective or whatnot, but comparatively, like, which is better? And what if you did Adderall this and are you gonna like really have
So basically, Adderall, for those of you who have never done it before, is a medication for attention hyperactivity disorder, where I guess it's that thing that doctors tell you your kid has when they're bored and can't concentrate in school. And I have a lot of friends, I'm not into the drug thing myself, but I have a lot of friends who have done it. And they basically describe it as, you take it, you sit down, your focus and your concentration is absolutely pinpoint. You could just write the best essay of your life, like study for your test, take it the next day, you're great. But like all forms of speed, you tend to crash off of it, you know, shortly after or a long time after. And people who take this thing long term do have a harder time, and this is subjective, there's no objective studies about this, but subjectively have a hard time returning to what they remember the baseline being. So,
what do you mean the baseline?
Okay, so I'm saying baseline is in where you feel yourself right now, right? So you take the Adderall, then when you come back down to your normal state, the normal state feels lower. You feel basically worse than you did, or less capable than you were. But this is all subjective, and as Caitlin likes to say, the human brain is pitifully bad at detecting its own state. So it could just be a perception thing also. We'd have to look at objective data.
I think Adderall is prohibited in Japan, is that correct?
Adderall used to be legal in Japan in the late 2000s, and it was recently scheduled along with cocaine and heroin and all that other stuff within the last couple of years. If you have a prescription for Adderall, even if you have a legal prescription and you're from the US and you come to Japan, they will confiscate the fuck out of it. So I would not go ahead and try to import that. I would definitely stick with Khan Academy if you which is as of today still legal in Japan. Yes?
Wait, so how often would you need to do this type of treatment to get the effect?
Right. So typical sessions tend to be 20 minutes a day, nothing more, for 5 days straight in a week. You usually don't do sessions more than 1 week at a time. So you might take a week, do a week off, do another week. The curve, if you look at the graph of results in depression patients, which is what a lot of the graphs are on, the first day you either feel a little bit worse than you did before, or you notice no change. Second day is a little bit better. By third or fourth day that you're doing this, I mean, the difference is dramatic, and by fifth day, you're good to go. The effects in terms of depression and in terms of, not necessarily learning, but in terms of depression and physical therapy, tend to last between hours to days to weeks after the original session. And in terms of trying to improve memory and math ability, it seems to be semi-permanent. So the stuff that you learn and understand while you're on this machine tends to stick with you. You don't like come down off the drug and you suck again. Like it tends to stick with you, which is a nice side effect.
It's not directly related to this, but it's also about brain hacking. Do you know about
transcranial magnetic stimulation? That's what it's called. Sorry. My God, I just thought of it right now. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Have you tried binaural waves?
Okay. From what I've seen, there's absolutely zero evidence that that stuff works.
Sorry.
I tend to think of it as being a little bit scammy. Like they released an app for this on the iPhone, and they claim it was, oh God, this is the worst thing ever. It was an app that they were marketing towards kids, and the way that they marketed it towards kids was they leaked a fake story to a newspaper saying, you know, a bunch of teenagers in a school were caught getting high in a closet by listening to their iPhone. And every kid in the country saw this, and just millions of people bought this app. And it comes with a couple, it was free, and it comes with a few free presets, but then there's other courses that you can buy. Some of them are $5, some of them are $2, some of them are $10, a couple of them are $500. And I'm sure a bunch of people accidentally ended up paying for those, because they're thinking like, wow, you know, it's $500, I'm going to get really fucked up off this. So there is absolutely no evidence whatsoever that binaural stimulation really has any effect on that. It's mainly placebo from what I can see. But I was deeply interested in that for a while too.
So they do this and then take a week off? What's the week off for? Does that...
I don't know. Go back to work. With some friends, watching Netflix.
How long will you do it to Kaylin?
Oh man. I find that there's not a lot of research right now in terms of what happens from using it for like 2 or 3 hours. So I really feel like I could do some pioneering work in this area.
Are you interested in doing some quantitative studies with this?
I'm extremely interested in it. And this is like what I do with most of my spare time. I've been interested in this for a while. I used to work for a company called Datascope. He used to leak me medical equipment, and then I would go home and I would make my own EEGs and EEG machines. I haven't, actually there was someone here at the meeting, who was here at the meeting, the last Kyoto one, and I promised them I would bring in schematics for an EEG that I had built a while ago, and I completely forgot, but in the other room I don't think they're here. So I should be relatively safe. But yeah, I'm deeply interested in that kind of stuff.
In general, these are just experiments with animals, but you started with human.
I love animals, man.
Look at him, he's wearing shorts
for like 15 years. I don't do that. Actually, all of the clinical trials going on with this are all humans. These have been in human testing for 20 years now. So there's nothing, you know, well, cures cancer in a mouse kind of thing going on. But yeah, if I ever come into a meeting and see my head shaved, you know I started experimenting on myself. Side note, you don't actually have to shave your head. It works with long hair also. Yes, guy with a shaved head. Yes.
The results on the snipers, I'm kind of interested. Were they being treated for depression?
Yeah, well, because they were constantly getting killed by campers. So they basically they were trying to learn certain tasks that involved motor control, because being a sniper obviously involves a tremendous amount of motor control, and number two, tasks involving compensating for things like wind and distance and stuff like that. And like I said, their actual results were that snipers trained while using this thing were able to learn it 2 to 3 times faster than without.
The US military uses it for drone training also, and it's about the same, 2 to 3 times as fast.
Wait, drones were that thing also?
Drone pilot.
Drone pilot. Okay, yeah. That's. I didn't hear about that. I tend to not read drone stuff about the U.S. government because it depresses me. So.
Does it make you better at games as well then?
Yeah. It might actually. I was thinking like maybe if I tried this out of myself, I wouldn't suck so much at Halo. And I do actually. Oh my God, I get really good at using the sniper rifle. Because right now I suck at it, but yeah, okay, cool, I'll try that out. We'll get Kalen hooked up to some game of Battlefield. Eddie,
do you think at the next meetup we can do it live?
I myself would not be against bringing this thing in, but at the same time, well, I guess you know, being American. I don't know how many of you are from America, but in America, it's customary to sue everybody. So, you know, like someone hands you a cup of coffee and it's got like, this coffee is fucking hot, writing big letters on it, and you drink it, and then you burn your tongue, and you're like, oh my God, this coffee's hot. You get $2 million. It's like, it's amazing. You can sue anyone for anything in America. So I tend to be a little bit more cautious and guarded with things that could kill someone, or at least like maim them, because I don't want to get sued, but. You know, I guess if I were to have a surge of confidence, I could bring it in. I want to build a couple more. Oh my God, that was not on purpose. God. All right. Yes, a burst of. If I were to become more confident and have more safety measures in there, then I would feel a little better about it. Or maybe if I log a couple more hours with Kalen, then we'll see how it goes. Also, if he's not at the next one.
Release. Yeah. Get a lawyer.
Ah, that's true. Is anybody here a lawyer? No?
Unfortunately.
All right. I'll go try to make friends. Anyone else? Okay, then I shall slowly fade out of view.